Hey there, friends. I'm still dealing with post-COVID BS, so I sound pretty terrible. But we're going to get through today's video, and then I think we're going to be doing the best of 2023 here very quickly. I'll take that time to recover, thankfully. Hopefully it goes away quickly. I remember last year it was not very quick, so. Anyways, today's video is a bit shorter, for obvious reasons. Then after this, it's going to be best ofs for the week. And yeah, with all that said, thank you everyone for your support. Thank you for listening and enjoy. This happened in my apartment. I'm 30, male, and I live alone, and it happened yesterday. Starting in the early afternoon during my work-from-home lunch. I'll be as brief as possible. I make my own spray air freshener, not unlike Febreze. And because I like my home to smell good and can make scents not typically found in stores like Walmart or Target, I have a modest variety of different fragrance oil scents, vanilla, cinnamon, bergamot, teak, etc., held in 20-ounce bottles, that I use to switch things up when I get tired of any particular smell. The recipe for the air freshener spray is pretty simple. Take a dollar store spray bottle, add 3 parts cleaning alcohol, distilled water, or vodka to 1 part fragrance oil of your choice. Tap water will go rancid. Then shake and it's ready to spray. I decided to make a new batch of spray, cinnamon. In my kitchen, I thoroughly cleaned out the spray bottle with soap and hot water in the sink, and then walked to my closet to grab the cinnamon fragrance oil and alcohol. When I picked up the fragrance bottle, it was 3/4 empty. Not surprising since I use this fragrance often and the amount remaining felt about right. No issues so far. I then walked about 20 feet back to the kitchen to continue making the batch. I decided to just kill the fragrance bottle since it was almost gone anyways. So, I poured the entire contents in the neck of the spray bottle. I shook the fragrance liquid to last drop since the fragrance oil is relatively expensive, $20 per bottle, and then threw the empty container into my trash bin. I added the alcohol into the spray bottle to complete the mixture, screwed the spray nozzle on, and I had a lovely new bottle of fragrance that I then sprayed around my home. And now, the glitch. Lounging in my living room about 5 hours later, I was thirsty and walked from my couch to the kitchen to get a glass of water, when I noticed a large plastic cup, from my NutriBullet, next to the sink that I did not remember leaving out. In the cup, I noticed about half an inch of viscous, oily, slightly golden yellowish liquid that did not look like anything I would drink or have in my fridge. I was immediately puzzled and instinctively smelled it to try to identify this strange liquid. To my shock and alarm, it was cinnamon fragrance oil. Coincidentally, the volume of oil was virtually identical to the amount that I had used for my mixture. Without thinking, I immediately dumped the liquid down the drain and began rinsing out the NutriBullet cup, only to realize the oil and scent had seeped so deep into the plastic and was coating the interior that I wouldn't be able to save the cup. I decided to just toss it into the trash to avoid the risk of ingesting fragrance oil. But all kinds of alarm bells are going off in my head at this point. I feel like I'm going insane. Not only did I not pour fragrance oil into a cup that I frequently drink from, something I would never do, but I distinctly remember the exact sequence I described above, starting with cleaning out the spray bottle in preparation for a new batch. And I used up all of the cinnamon fragrance oil that I own in the batch that I made. The entire process took approximately 3 to 4 minutes at the most, and I did it all in one linear sequence. A while later, still thoroughly puzzled and questioning my sanity, I went back to the kitchen and pulled the NutriBullet cup to inspect it again. The unmistakable smell of cinnamon fragrance oil is still there. Inexplicably, there had indeed been fragrance oil in my drinking cup. I know that this is a relatively mundane glitch for this sub, but I have no idea how fragrance oil, that I no longer had because I had just used the last of it, could have possibly materialized in a drinking cup on my counter. I called my brother and he told me to check for carbon monoxide in my apartment. I don't know what's real anymore. Help? I work back of house at Olive Garden, and this one particular day I was the bread person. It was a busy day, so in preparation, this nice woman, no name to protect identity, who had been here forever, was helping me fill the rack with bread before she left for the day. So we fill it completely full, but a couple of minutes later, when a server takes the already buttered and salted bread that we have ready, notes this was in addition to the full rack, and there were 2 trays worth in the container, I turn around to put 2 top trays in the oven. But I stop because I notice that, for some reason, 1 tray is missing from the middle. Okay, so maybe someone put it in the oven and I missed it. Sometimes the servers will help out. I check both the top and bottom oven. Nothing. I asked the lady that was helping me fill the rack, did someone take a tray from the middle? And she said it was full a minute ago. I asked the server currently taking our prepared bread if she saw someone take a tray, but no, nothing. The oven directly behind me is the only oven that bread gets baked in. Now, I do have sleep issues, that's issues with quality of sleep, but the lady that was helping me on bread is very attentive to detail, so there's no way that we both would have missed it. Also, no one ever takes unbaked trays of bread, except for to put it in the oven directly behind me, so this just makes no sense to me. I only asked the server to rule it out. I also rotate my bread in a specific way. I take from the top and move the bread up from the bottom. I don't currently have a carbon monoxide detector in my house, but because of this subreddit, I kind of panicked and called the gas company, and they came out recently and nothing was wrong. I want to add that they added that detail because that's a common statement made by commenters on the subreddit. Anyways, I also don't think that anyone would be able to steal a full tray of bread, even if they wanted to, because you can't even tilt it sideways without it falling down. I never figured out what happened that day, but if you guys can think of anything that I missed to rule out, let me know. A couple of years back, when my youngest brother was still young, he was obsessed with Darth Vader. My dad owned a couple of Legos, and after many requests from my brother, gave him one of his rare Darth Vader Lego figures. My little brother was ecstatic, but my father told him sternly to take good care of it, because that one was an expensive one of its kind. And that day, my oldest brother and my youngest were messing around playing with Legos, and, for whatever reason, they decided to take a break and then come back. Well, my little brother comes back crying how his Lego Darth Vader is gone. And, at first, they both search around the little area that they were playing, but nothing. The search expands as my little brother gets more and more desperate, so our dad doesn't get angry at him. Me and my sister begin to search around the house. We checked the most obscure of areas. Aren't things always either in the most obscure or most obvious places? But it's nowhere. Not on the bunk bed, the floor, counter, drawers. It is nowhere. Eventually, my dad finds out. He's a little disheartened that it's lost, but tells everyone to start looking harder. Eventually, my mom is looking too. We're like this for a good 20 minutes, and then we all group back together in a circle in the living room in defeat. We stand in that circle for a moment of silence as we think of where to look next, but that silence is cut short by a small clack. All of a sudden, our eyes are on the black Lego Darth Vader on the floor, in the center of our circle. The silence doesn't break for a moment. We look up at the bare ceiling, and then we start talking in a frenzy, trying to piece together what just happened. There was no incentive for any member of my family to hide this Lego. My elder brother is a prankster, but he was standing in the circle with us. And we all would want my little brother to be at ease. Plus, how? The timing was impeccable, by the way. It was right when all hope was lost. In 1988, a friend and I were staying at an extremely small one-bedroom house for a week, in the middle of the Allegheny Mountains. The closest neighbor was almost 5 miles away. There was nothing around but country. Late one night, we were listening to music and heard a dog scratching at the door. It was a small, friendly Jack Russell, so we let it in and gave it some food and water. We were sitting in the living room when the dog ran past the bedroom, then slowly backed out of the bedroom, growling and snarling with the fur on its back standing straight up. We both stood up, grabbed our jackets, and walked out of the house. We stood outside the front door calling for the dog, but the dog wouldn't come, so we shut the door and walked away from the house to calm down, because it freaked us out a little. We kept our eyes on the front door. There was no back door, and the house was easy to see because the porch light was the only light around for miles. It was dead quiet. We didn't hear anything. We couldn't even hear the dog anymore. After about 30 minutes, we went back into the house, and the dog was gone. We never saw it again. For a few days, we tried to figure out how the dog could have gotten out of the house, or what could have spooked it so bad that night, but we never did. The dog couldn't have gotten out without someone letting it out. We didn't see anyone come out, and as far as we could tell, there was no one around for miles. We didn't see another person or a car drive past the entire time that we stayed there. Me and the friend that was there that day are still friends today. Every now and again, we bring it up and try to explain it in a way that makes sense, but we never can. Listening to glitch stories about inexplicable disappearing items reminds me of this story that happened several years ago. It was March 24th, 2017, and I was off to a good start on a date with this guy who would soon become my boyfriend. The weather was unseasonably warm for southern Pennsylvania. There was casual flirting, small gestures, and lots of hand-holding. We drove separately. This will be important later. We decided to browse the GameStop at our local shopping center and agreed to meet outside the store. I remember putting my keys in my purse. We were in there for about 15 minutes, and as we came out and walked to our cars still engaged in conversation, I reached into my purse for my keys. Nothing. I stopped and looked closely inside, checking all of the compartments. There was no way that they were in there. We walked back into the store and inquired about a missing set of car keys. They hadn't seen them either. Now that we checked the rational places, we checked the irrational places, such as around the immediate and adjoining parking lots. This wouldn't have made sense because it was not a windy night. To our horror, but no surprise, they still didn't turn up. At that point, I did the only thing that I could, which was ask him to drive me home to pick up a duplicate key. This still wouldn't have brought back the flash drive attached to the lanyard on the original set, that had months of work saved on a project I was working on. At this point, we were dumbfounded. After picking up the duplicate key, he took me back to my car so that we could resume our date. The following day, I called the GameStop again, swearing up and down that that was the last place I had seen my keys. They confirmed that there were no lanyards with car keys left from over the night before. I drove up to search the parking lot again, and still nothing. It's like those keys vanished into thin air. I visited Walmart and had a copy made for my new duplicate key. Also, I was able to retrace most of the work from my project on my laptop. But still, to this day, I have no clue what happened. Was God trying to teach me a lesson in being resourceful in an unwelcome situation? Or was it a glitch? Any ideas? When I lived in my old apartment in the Midwest, the rent was unbelievably cheap for the size. 2 spacious rooms and a bathroom for less than $1,000 a month. Most days, life went on as usual, but there was one incident that still baffles me to this day. It was a sunny afternoon, and I decided to tackle the ever-growing pile of dishes in my sink. I reached for the blue dish soap bottle, a familiar container, and I was about to use it, when something inexplicable happened. The bottle vanished into thin air, right before my eyes. I couldn't believe it. I stood there staring at the empty spot on the counter where the blue bottle had been just a moment ago. I checked the immediate surroundings, thinking maybe it had fallen or rolled away, but it was nowhere to be found. Puzzled and somewhat frustrated, I searched the entire apartment, even places where the bottle had no reason to be, but it had seemingly disappeared from existence. Defeated and utterly perplexed, I returned to the kitchen and glanced back at the sink, and there it was, as if nothing had ever happened. The blue dish soap bottle neatly placed next to the sink. My mind raced with confusion and disbelief. Had I imagined the entire incident? Or had I experienced a brief glitch in the fabric of reality? The strangest part was that it wasn't just the bottle that had vanished. It was as if the memory of it had vanished too, leaving me questioning if I had run out of soap or just forgotten to buy more, even though I was certain it was supposed to be there all along. It felt like a surreal moment, where the boundaries of reality blurred, leaving me with a lingering sense that perhaps there are aspects of our world that defy logic and reason, hidden just beneath the surface of our everyday lives. I was a freshman in college, trudging up the hill to class on a cold morning. I pulled my phone out to check it, and I open Instagram. I see that something is posted on my Instagram story, but I'm confused because I'd not posted anything within the previous 24 hours. I tap on it to see what it is, and a strange picture that I have never seen or taken before appears. Utterly confused, I delete it moments after catching some general details. This could not have been a photo taken accidentally on my phone, because it was a picture of my phone. On it was a white screen with lots of words that were too blurry to read. My hand was holding it and showed partially with my thick silver thumb ring that I always wore. This picture was not in my camera roll, and I had no memory of taking it. At the time, I never even had alcohol yet, let alone been drunk enough to not remember what happened the night before. About 6 years ago, 2 years after my grandmother passed away, I had this experience that I still can't explain. Before she passed, she left me 2 rings. I wore them every day. About a year after she passed, I lost the rings. I mean, fully, completely lost. I tore my room, car, everything apart. Truly believe that I was thorough. My mom came to visit one weekend, deep cleaned my room and bathroom. I lived in my brother's basement for a bit. And that was that. So, fast forward a year after I had lost the rings, I was listening to a podcast and this woman was talking about how she said goodbye to her mother, as she wasn't able to say goodbye before her mother passed. She did so by getting on a boat and tossing her beloved necklace into the water, because it wasn't about the necklace. She had to let go to say goodbye on her terms. I cried and cried, and I spoke out loud and told my grandma that I'm letting the rings go. It's about my love for her and what she gave me that had nothing to do with the rings. I accepted the rings were gone. When I got home that night, I took a shower and I placed something on my bathroom shelf, hit this vase, and the rings were there. Not hidden, just sitting there on the shelf. When I tell you my heart dropped and began pounding, I mean that my core was totally shaken. I'm completely confused. I looked there, and I looked good. When I told my mom what happened, she immediately said, "I cleaned your bathroom. I didn't see those rings." I'm not sure why I feel this is important to mention, but the rings belonged to my paternal grandmother, so there's no part of my mom that would inform this hope or belief that this was a sign or message. Also, we are Mexican, and when my mama cleans, she doesn't miss stuff. She's also a skeptic, and was shocked with what I had told her. All to say, when I tell my boyfriend, now husband, what happened, the first thing he said was, "It's a glitch in the Matrix." Hello, Raven. I love your podcast, and I just figured out that this website exists. This is a glitch story from when I was 11. I was at a corn-themed amusement park that is very popular in my state. I went with my family on Sunday and we were having a great time. There were all sorts of farm-themed activities, usually made out of old farm equipment. And then there was a really big maze in the center-ish area of the park. So my family and I went into the maze. We wandered around for a while before I accidentally found the exit. I walked out and checked my watch, and it's Saturday. I asked my parents about this, and they confusedly said that it was always Saturday, which I guess I get more weekend. I still think about this often, as it's the weirdest glitch that I've experienced. Thank you for reading my story. About 10 years back, while I was living in San Francisco, me and my roommates drove to Hayward to go watch a movie with a friend of ours who lived in Hayward. To get to Hayward from San Francisco, you have to cross the San Mateo Bridge. I've driven that bridge what feels like 1,000,000 times, so I'm super familiar with how long it takes to get across it. It was a later movie, and we didn't get out until a few minutes before midnight. We said our goodbyes and started driving back home to the city. We're on the San Mateo Bridge and my roommate was driving. It was late, and I was just enjoying the radio while we drove, super content and relaxed. I then suddenly had this deep feeling that we'd been driving for a very long time. Too long. Like it felt like we'd been driving for hours. There weren't very many cars on the bridge at that hour either, and I surveyed my surroundings. The bridge just stretched on before us. Suddenly, my roommate spoke up and asked me if it felt like we'd been driving for way too long on the bridge, and my stomach sank. We turned the radio off, and I swear to you, the clock said 1:20 a.m. We'd somehow been driving on that bridge for over an hour. We freaked out and became hyper-vigilant. I told my roommate who was driving to just stay calm and that I'm sure we would be off the bridge soon. And sure enough, the hill on the bridge came up that you drive over to get off the bridge, and into Foster City. We sped home to our townhome at like 90 miles per hour after we'd gotten off the bridge. That bridge does not take over an hour to get across. I truly feel like we'd gotten stuck in some time loop on that bridge crossing the bay. And when we finally realized it was happening, we snapped out of it. And no, we didn't drink or do any drugs. Has this happened to anyone else? Maybe even on the same bridge? So, that, my friends, was this week's collection of Glitch in the Matrix stories. A collection of stories that explain or outline the weirdness, strangeness, and awkwardness that is our existence. Narrated by a man with a voice that is scratchy and nasally because he still is dealing with post-COVID BS. I hate it. I know a lot of you will probably say I sound fine. I don't. Please don't lie to me. No. I know I don't sound fine. I don't sound great, but in the end, it is what it is. Can't push myself or overdo it. Can't fix it. I just have to accept it's a thing that's happening and move forward with stuff and such. As such, after this, we're going to do compilations for a little while. We're going to do some best of 2023 stuff. How's that sound to everybody? It sounds good to me, so. And when all is said and done, I should have new content up in about 9 days. Yeah. Hopefully I'm better by then. If not, I will probably lose my mind, so there's that. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please do hit that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, get your ears checked, and then hit subscribe. And then you can also do other things, like join Patreon or memberships to get early access to content like this. Do a super thanks, which is a tip to the channel, which is never ever expected, but always appreciated. And then the last thing you can do is participate in what we call the word of the week. Now, the last word of the week, the word was linger. Linger? Anyway. And a lot of you left pretty good comments using the word. And some of you made comments about how I was feeling the linger because of having COVID, which yes, I was. Yes, I still am. On the screen now and several moments prior to now is the screenshot collection of all the people who left me a comment with the word of the week last week. You are all amazing people, and I appreciate you more than I am willing to talk about. That's a lie. I'm willing to talk about it. I appreciate you guys a lot. I really do. You guys are amazing, and because of how amazing you are and how much support you give to the channel, I think that's why I'm so frustrated that my voice isn't working with me. My voice is my job, so I need it to work. There's that. Yeah. Thank you to everyone who did participate in the Word of the Week last week. You guys are amazing, and thank you for going above and beyond. And this week, the Word of the Week is one that is a little bit easier. It's a simple verb. It's only 5 letters. It is charge. C-H-A-R-G-E, which is to fix or ask as fee or payment, to record an item as an expense, that's the financial part of that, or to give an electric charge to. There is also the other side, which is to, wow, there's a lot of definitions, to rush against, to make assertion against, especially by ascribing guilt or blame, to impose a task or responsibility on, to command, instruct, or exhort with authority. I'm not going to give all those. I'll give a few of them on the screen. There are a lot of definitions for the word charge. Use any of them, I will accept it. I charge you with the task of using the word charge. Hang on, I gotta charge my phone. Anyways, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope I do see you again here very soon. But until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And until I see you again, my friends, much love, and sleep well.